Okay, so in this session today, you will learn about the new features of the Slice annotation tool, how to use them to set up a collaborative activity, and how to create a variety of class exercises by changing the settings within the annotation tool. So I know most of you have had a chance to look around Slice, but for those of you who are newer to Slice, it's a biomedical image bank that hosts images from institutional collections from around the world. Its annotation tool allows you to mark regions and features of images, and your annotations can be shared with others. The Slice Biomedical Image Bank hosts a variety of images, including photographs of macroscopic, normal and diseased tissue, microscopic images, X-rays, laboratory plates, and you are most welcome to contribute your own images. When the Slice annotation tool was first developed, it was envisaged that academics and students would use the annotation tool to make personal notes on images, and classes will run where students annotated while their teacher guided them through the features of the images. Here we have Professor Nick Hawkins teaching a histopathology class at UNSW, focusing on the microscopic features of the colon. Slice was also commonly used in lectures and tutorials where an image was added to a presentation with a hyperlink so that the lecturer and or the students could follow the link for a more detailed, larger image. We've also covered the use of Slice images in Smart Sparrow tutorials previously, where you're able to create interactive questions such as drag and drops around the images located in Slice. As students and staff became familiar with the tool, we started testing the boundaries, and there was demand for the ability for students and staff to collaborate on image annotations. So we developed the collaborative annotation tool that allows you to invite people to join annotation layers, to control how they interact, whether that be anonymously or with their name appearing next to their annotations, and whether or not people can see each other's annotations. So whether they're private exercises or whether all class or small group exercises. The best way for me to demonstrate how an activity can change based on settings is to demonstrate this with a single image. I'll show you a few examples of real class activities after we've played around with the settings. This is a microscopic longitudinal image of a newborn rat, and it's a great resource for demonstrating how all the organs fit together. I'm now going to share a link with you using the chat function within the webinar. So when you follow these links, you'll be asked to log into Slice. I know some of you probably already have your own accounts, and feel free to log in with those, but if you're having trouble logging in, I've shared this account with you that will allow you to participate. I've also shared these details in the chat so you can copy and paste. The username is the same as the password. Okay, so I can see that we've got 4 members on our annotation layer now, and this information is always present in the section underneath your annotation layer title and description under the layer owner. So if I just refresh again, okay, we've still got our 4, so that's fine. It might mean that a couple of people are logging in with that student account, and that's fine. Okay, let's just quickly cover sharing links on Slice. So each image on Slice has its own unique code, each annotation layer has a unique code, and there's also information in the Slice URL about the zoom level and the annotation, whether they're popped up or not. So if you are wanting to share an image on Slice, this section of the URL will send people to the image itself. So I'm just going to copy this and reload the image so you can see. So if I was not logged in, you wouldn't see any of my annotations, but you can see that I'm at the overarching view of the slide. We're not in any particular annotation. So I'm just going to click back into today's annotation layer, and we've now got the second unique code that indicates this particular annotation layer. So So if you share this link with somebody, they're going to arrive at this annotation level and at this zoom level. As soon as I zoom in to a smaller region, the URL updates, and we've now got extra text up the top indicating the location on which we are located in the slide. So if you share that version, you're going to direct students to the image, the annotation layer, and the area on the slide that you want to look at. The link to invite people to join your annotation layer is located somewhere different. Next to the number of members on a slice layer, we've got this invite button, and that generates a unique code that will allow someone to join the annotation layer. You can see just pasted up the top here, it's got the text saying invite and another code. This code won't change. This annotation layer will always have that particular code. So if you'd like to invite someone to join you, you can share that invitation link through either a learning management system or social media, any way you'd like to share, email. Okay. As the layer owner, my annotations will always appear at the top of the screen, and anyone else's annotations will appear below. So I'm now going to show you how this annotation layer has been set up. So if you click this drop down next to the title and go to edit, we've got the member settings down the bottom. So here we can change the title, the description, and also how people interact on this annotation layer. So right now I've got it set so that members can see each other's annotations. I'm just going to uncheck that now, and we will have members being anonymous. Click done. And the next step, I'm going to invite you all to have a go at annotating this image. So the aim is to annotate body structures and to give your annotations a title. If you haven't annotated before, just stay with me on the screen here and you can see how it's done, and then I'll give you a chance to do it later. But you can go ahead and make your own annotations using your accounts. So the first step is to click the annotate button. I'm going to annotate the lung, so I'm going to give that a title. I could put a description here, but for the time being, I'll just leave that blank. I'm going to use the polygon tool to draw around the region of the lung, double-clicking to finish the shape. You can also draw a polygon a little bit more quickly by holding down the Shift key and tracing around the shape. That's going to allow you to draw more exactly around the shape, but you can see that it's much more difficult to edit this kind of shape because the number of points is infinitely large, whereas this one we could easily edit those shapes. We can also just drop a pin, and in order to make this show up a little bit brighter on my image, I'm just going to change the color to this teal and click done. I'll go back and reload. So have a go making your own annotations so that we can start getting a few here. Okay, if you haven't finished yours yet, you can definitely finish it up and maybe make another one in the next session. Don't worry if you don't actually know what the body structures are, feel free to just drop any pin anywhere on the activity. So I'm now going to change the settings of the exercise, so we'll see how they change. So we're now going to allow members to see each other's annotations. I'll click done. And you might need to just reload to see that represented. Oh, now I've got lots of annotations, fantastic. Right, on this account, I'm logged in as a student. And previously, I could only see my own annotation, the tongue, and the teacher's annotations, which would be mine. Bye. So now if I reload the student account, you can see that you've got the teachers layer at the top, their annotations. your own personal annotations in the middle, and all other annotations made on this image are located down the bottom, all under different accounts, but we can't see who's done what annotation. They're all just coming up as anonymous, but you've now got access to seeing everybody else's. The final way to change an exercise is to go back to edit and tick off make members anonymous. So now this changes it so we can see everybody's names. So we've got a couple by Chris, a couple by my student account, and quite a few by the members who have joined the student at best account. So we can assume there's a couple of people there today annotating. So this particular way of setting up an activity we often use for small group activities where people probably know each other, they're working in small groups. Whereas more often for the anonymous accounts, we're using large classes where to encourage people to annotate, we keep them anonymous. Okay, so now we've had a look at the setting up of the tool. I'm just going to run through a couple of examples that we've had in classes. So my first example was an exercise that was run by Dr. Nalini Patha at UNSW. She was using this in one of her lectures. It was a final lecture for the year and they were conducting a revision exercise. We set up multiple activities where the students were asked to use the slice tool to put a pin in different anatomical features on a lot of gross anatomy specimens. So here they were placing a red pin in the infraspinatus muscle and a couple of other pins. So the way the exercise was set up was that students could not see each other's annotations. So we had that unchecked. And they completed the activity before we went to her account, and all of the annotations were revealed up on the board. So you could see that the annotations started to cluster in particular areas. Before we ran the activity, Nalini had created an answers layer. So we had the different muscles and regions highlighted with the polygon tool in a different color. When the students had finished their annotations, we then went to this overall layer view of slides, and we actually ran 2 exercises on this. So I'm just going to hide one of the activities. And we had the students' answer layer and Nalini's answer layer, and they could be viewed at the same time so that the students' pins fell inside or outside the correct regions as identified by Nalini. So you could see that pretty quickly we could work out that there were a lot of misconceptions happening up in this top corner, some further down. So we're able to answer these questions in class or cover them over with the entire class with verbal feedback. So we ran a poll with students after the activity and they gave us some wonderful feedback. They loved the format. They loved being able to talk to the students next to them before submitting their own answers. They thought it was a lot of fun. And the way we'd staged it was that all the exercises were released as individual links in Moodle so that everybody remained at the same pace. They could complete a couple of activities, but then they waited till everything was reviewed before moving on. They definitely hoped for more in future courses and classes. So Nalini is planning to conduct this activity in future classes. So my next example is one that was run by Dr. Betty Khan. She's a pathologist at UNSW, and she was conducting a group activity. So we had lots of groups, about 8 in the class. So we had a different layer set up for each student group. And when we set up the exercise, we asked students to give their annotations a title and map different histopathological regions, including the normal mucosa of this specimen, the tumour and how it was protruding into the normal mucosa. And this exercise was duplicated multiple times to create individual links to invite people to their individual group layers. So here I've lost the invite link because this was actually set up under Betty's account. So that's why I can't see that there. The settings for this activity were such that the students were all annotating with their names against their annotations, and this just helped facilitate the discussion around a table where they all knew each other. The classroom was set up with pods of computers, and the students were all either sitting with their own computer or with one of the computers provided by the classroom. On this type of slide, the toggle feature that's part of the collaborative annotation tool becomes quite handy. So you can see that these students have made annotations and the eye is visible. The people that haven't made annotations have this eye and toggle tool turned off. But you can select the toggle focus to highlight the annotations made by individual students. So if you're trying to review responses, you can highlight particular people's and provide feedback. This tool doesn't work as well when you've got an anonymized layer because you're only turning on or off all annotations in a list. You can, however, turn them all off, such as this example, and turn individual annotations on as you review them. That allows you to review a very clean version of a slide. When this activity had finished, the students shared the link at the top with Dr. Betty Khan, and she was able to bring that up on the main computer and provide feedback to the student groups. She also circulated a correct answers layer to the students at the end so that they had some correct annotations to go home with and compare to their own. The final activity I'm going to show you today is more similar to the first one done by Nalini. But instead of being an anatomical feature, it's a histological feature. So we invited students to participate in a exercise that was run on a microscopic image of a fetal rat head. And this exercise involves students annotating 3 cell types: an osteoblast, an osteocyte, and an zoomed out. Sorry, we just lost internet connection for a second now. We've got it back now. So students were invited to this slide showing a fetal rat head, and the exercise involved students annotating 3 cell types: an osteoblast, an osteocyte, and an osteoclast. And this is after they attended a lecture on bone histology. So when they were invited, they came to this zoomed out view, and Patrick de Pimentio gave them a bit of background about what they were seeing, and then they were invited to click this link. So the slide reloaded at a higher zoom level. So now you can see up in this region here, we're down here. Okay, so the students all then annotated particular cell types, giving them a name. As you can see, we had 90 students on this annotation layer, which resulted in a rather large 229 annotations being made. Unlike anatomical images, it's a little bit more difficult to highlight regions when you're asking students to pin cell types because there's so many examples. But what we did as a way of getting around this was to zoom into the annotations and click them one at a time so that the annotation was highlighted, and we gave verbal feedback as to whether they were correct or not. So you could see that a lot of students had correctly identified this as an osteoclast. We continued on through the list, getting as far down as we could in a few minutes before polling the students just to say whether they understood the concepts, but we also spent a bit of time just reviewing why some of these annotations that were a little bit further out in the wrong region were in fact wrong and what they were. As well as giving feedback on these annotations, we created different annotations that were a list of several correct examples that have been created by the students. This is done by using the associations section on an annotation. So to click the edit, this brings up a list of all the annotations that have been made, and if they're visible on the screen, you can highlight them and click them to say, yes, this is a correct example. We're going to associate with this layer saying correct examples of osteoblasts. So this meant that when students took home the responses, they could see all the annotations, but they also had several examples of correct annotations that were osteoblasts, osteocytes, and osteoclasts. Okay, so that's the extent of the activities that I was going to show you today. But first of all, I want to highlight some other useful resources that might be helpful in the planning of your own activities. So we've got a Best Network blog, and if we'll follow this link, you'll see that a little bit further down the page, I've created a run through of Nalini's exercise. So we've got some images, some descriptions of how you can set these up, and any feedback we've received. So this has been, blog posts have been created for many of the activities that we've run, and they're slowly making their way onto the blog. So keep an eye on that to get some feedback about how you can run these things yourself. We've also got video help resources on our YouTube channel. So these are all the videos on our channel here, and you can see we've got one on creating collaborative annotations on slides, minutes video about need something to share. We've also got a how to use the slice image bank. So if you want to come back and see more about just the annotation tool itself, how to find images, we've got all of that in this slightly longer video about how to use slice. Okay, so now's the opportunity to answer any questions that we have been sent through during the presentation. And if at any stage you'd like to contact me and discuss your plans about using Slice in your classes, I'm more than happy to set up individual chats with people. So feel free to email me at s.dowdell@best.edu.au. Okay, so feel free to chat through any questions. I've just got a couple here first. So can I embed a link in an annotation layer? Absolutely. This is something that we've deployed in a couple of class activities. You can either use the full annotation layer that has a lot of information and copy that entire URL into the description box. So let's just grab one that I can edit. My personal one here will be available. So I could put any link inside a description box, and this will show up as a hyperlink as soon as I press done. So I'll also just see how the tool reacts when you've got a really long annotation. So you see that it truncates it, but you're still able to access that link and it will direct you to the right area. Okay, so we've got a question saying, how do you add the answer layer? So to do that, just go back to this main view of Slice and click Add Layer. So this just involves, we'll just call this Answers for today. You're setting up a separate layer, different to the one that you send your students. We'll click Done. You probably won't be sharing this, but we can just annotate. Generally ask students to use the pin tool if you're going to be doing something like this, but you would create the right answers with a polygon, and then the students who've been asked to pin this brain, the pins would fall inside this area, and you've highlighted that as the brain. Now if I just use my student account, I could make an annotation saying this, I'm pinning this as the brain. Click Done. And when we reload all of the annotations under this account, which is the teacher account, sorry, I've got a couple of accounts open here, it makes it quite tricky. Okay, and go back to this view. So I've got multiple exercises happening on this layer, but we can see that the two people that labeled this as the brain are now falling inside this purple region, so we could give the feedback, yes, you are correct in this pass. So that's just handled by having two different layers at the top here, and you're just viewing both your answers and the group layer. Yes, that's right. So the answer layer does not automatically tell them that they're correct. You would show them both layers on the demonstrator screen. The other way that you could run exercises like this is by incorporating the image into a Smart Sparrow tutorial. And this is where you can give automatic feedback. So it's a similar sort of tool where you're highlighting regions as correct, and the students drag and drop a star onto the region, and then you fire feedback saying, yes, you've got that correct. Okay, the last thing I've got here is, can I share a link directly in Slice, or do I have to put it somewhere else? So there's no actual way to share annotation layers directly in Slice. You need to copy the link and put it into either a learning management system, email, or social media to share these annotation layer links. But in next year, we're excited to announce that for our Best Network partner universities, will be integrated with the LMSs directly with Slice. So if you paste a Slice link inside your LMS, the students will be automatically signed in to Slice. If they don't have an account, one will be generated for them. And this will allow you to create activities much more seamlessly within your LMS. Okay, wonderful. So feel free to just send through any other questions, either now or to my email address at a later stage. And we've just got one more poll for you. This will pop up again, just to let us know whether you think you'll be trying a collaborative exercise next semester. Wonderful. We've got another question that's just come through. Are there radiological images on Slice? There absolutely are. So I'm just going to end this poll. But first of all, it's very exciting to hear that most of you are going to try it. So please feel free to email me. I'm happy to provide support, get your students registered. So by all means, contact me. I'm just going to end this poll now. And I'll just go back to my screen on Slice. Where are we? And I'm just going to go back to the main screen, which I'm just accessing here in this right-hand corner. So you've got a button underneath the intro to Slice, which is just best.edu.au/slice. Click Discover Slice. To search the entire image bank, I just use a quick double exclamation points to search everything. And this is going to bring back our entire collection. You could search lung or whatever you like to search, but once you've got a search happening, you can then narrow the search results down to imaging. And then we've got thousands of X-rays and a few CT scans. Right now, we don't have the ability to zoom through layers, but we've got static images. A lot of them have actually been annotated by a radiologist. So if we just bring up this metadata description here. So we've got the annotations highlighted where it says the arrows are a particular feature. And if I click this case ID down the bottom, that links images that have been contributed as part of the same set. So as part of these, we've got an unannotated and an annotated image for each of the ones included in this collection. So yes, we've got plenty of X-rays, but if you'd like to contribute some more, please feel free to contact me as well, and we'll get your images uploaded so you can teach with your own. Okay, well, I'll just hang around for another minute or so, but thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you found it helpful, and we look forward to either having a chat with you or seeing you at the next webinar. Thank you.